I have left the bustling modern alchemy capital and gone to a surreal place with beautiful scenery but only daily entertainment like grinning with flying dragons. Just because of a letter sent by my senior sister. Hello Traverse, I am Reborn. Keywords of the novel. Reincarnation of the female demon, saving the world with the reborn daughter without a pop-up window, reincarnation of the female demon, saving the world with the reborn daughter. Download the complete text, Reincarnation of the Female Demon, and Saving the World with the Reborn Daughter. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Hamlet Town. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Hamlet Town. The sound of the dragon turtle car driving is monotonous. The swaying carriage is like a classroom on a hot summer day. The combination of the two made the girl inside the carriage drowsy. The most impressive thing about her petite figure is the almost overflowing talent on her chest. The black and complex long dress on her body looks particularly loose except for the areas full of talent, with a delicate and fragile feeling. She has silver and wasted hair that is difficult to take care of, a beautiful face that immediately makes people feel good about her, and a clear and long corner of her eyes with tear stains. She is a beauty that even in the capital, she will receive high praise. The girl's name is Melina, and she is a traveler. Her golden eyes are looking bored outside the car, and her left hand is pressed against the handle of her lace sunshade umbrella. The simple circular natural scenery outside the window, including mountains, forests, grasslands, mountains, as well as the top predators of nature gliding through the sky, dragons, which have made the dragon turtle cart carefully stop dozens of times. Roar, the dragon turtle cart has come to a stop again. The dragon turtle is a powerful animal that can brake sharply even when towing a heavy 5-meter-long, wide-bottom, and narrow-top carriage. It just made the passengers in the carriage suffer. Passengers were jolted forward by the sudden brakes, and few people sitting in narrow carriages flew forward due to the lack of seatbelts in this world. Melina picked up the small lace sunshade umbrella at hand, and as she stepped aside, a towering man with a frightened face was pushed back into his seat by the slender, toothpick-like sunshade umbrella compared to his body size. Startled, he turned his head and saw the scene of a girl sitting elegantly beside him retracting her umbrella and gently leaning on the ground. Duh! The tip of the umbrella touches the ground. The strong man reacted and first showed a very grateful expression. However, as his gaze shifted downwards, his face turned red like a steamed hairy crab. He vigorously shook the beginning. Thank you very much, girl. It's a piece of cake. Melina straightened her waist, a movement that was too stimulating for the simple locals. The strong man looked straight in front of the empty space, his eyes straightened, and he didn't dare to move. Are you from Hamlet Town? Melina asked casually. Yes, answered the strong man with a stress-like response. Explorer. Melina lightly tapped the umbrella handle with her left index finger. I'm just a collector, but I can also be considered an explorer, ahaha. The strong man smiled heartily and scratched the back of his head with embarrassment. The collector is one of the branches of the explorer profession, and 99% of the world's areas are unknown to purebred humans, just like the forest before us, inhabited by various terrifying monsters. Defeat or hunt these monsters, explore human habitats, and collect the cornerstone of civilization from these areas. This profession is called an explorer. And the gatherer is the most ordinary type of explorer, much like the basic resource collector in games like Age of Empires 2, who has the ability to log, mine, collect berries, and hunt small herbivorous animals. The strong man in front of me is an ordinary collector. However, even the most ordinary gatherers have the ability to collect more than 1 ton of grain per day, and can easily run with a weight of 1 ton on their shoulders. It's simply superhuman. Miss, what's your name? My name is Charles Lest Benam, and everyone calls me Charlie. The simple man with some charming thoughts in his heart looked at her eagerly. Melina is my name, she played with the handle of the umbrella. The gatherer is also an explorer, so you should have something that explorers only have, armed. Are you curious about this? Charlie pulled out the small knife from his waist as if offering a treasure. It's said to be a small knife, but it's just for his physique. For Melina, it was a one-handed sword of decent length. It exudes a slightly yellowish color with a bone-like texture all over its body. The lower blade has not been cut, while the upper blade has been cut and applied some deep blue light. This is armed. A device that injects magical factors through special processing to enhance the physical fitness of the user. Only armed individuals can become explorers. Melina stared at the small knife. Charlie asked curiously. Aren't you an explorer? Miss Melina. No, Melina withdrew her gaze. But your strength. Charlie looked at the slender lace sunshade in the other person's left hand. He was at least an explorer and could tell that the umbrella in the other person's hand was not very armed. It's not just a magic factor enhancement device for ordinary people, it's just an ordinary umbrella that stops them. That can only be explained as the girl's own supernatural power. I am a witch, Melina said calmly. Oh. Charlie, the strong man, couldn't help but let out a surprised voice, and even the other passengers in the carriage looked over curiously. There are many human races that are born with powerful magical factors, such as elves, blood races, and so on, and the female demon is one of them, fully known as the primate female demon species. Many female demons are extremely strong explorers, and even have the ability to hunt flying dragons alone. For the lowest level explorers like Charlie, the Banshee are similar to the blood race and elves, and are similar to legends. Charlie noticed that Melina had shifted her gaze back to her armament and said grandly. Miss, do you want to touch and see? Melina shifted her gaze and the corner of her mouth moved. No, she said, I'm afraid I might damage your knife. It's a good small knife, and the design and processing of the mold are both very good. Ha ha ha. This is a matter of course. Charlie laughed heartily. Our Hamlet town is short of everything, but it's not short of weapons. The old men in the iron shop are important reasons why many people from around come to visit Hamlet town. By the way, girl, if you say you're not an explorer, why are you coming to this place in our town where dogs don't bark when they come? Melina smiled and touched her face with her right hand. There is a reason why I have to come. A few days ago, she received a letter from her senior sister. She didn't have a deep impression of this senior sister and had almost no friendship, so when she received the letter, she even suspected that it was sent to the wrong person. However, when she opened the lacquer seal on the letter, took out the letter paper, and saw only one line of text on the letter, she knew it was a letter to her. Hello Traverse, I am Reborn. The envelope also includes 50 gold lei, with a purchasing power of approximately 5,000 yuan, a map of the Weeping Peninsula with a small town called Hamlet Town circled in red, and an address within Hamlet Town. An invitation letter. The car continued to move, and the strong man quickly forgot about his hometown and turned to mutter. Why do these turtles stay in place like a turtle when the dragon comes? It's just a characteristic of flying dragons. Melina's right index finger and thumb circled a circle around her eye socket. They are predators of the sky, and their eyes grow thick, translucent keratin to prevent dryness, which leads to poor static vision. However, their dynamic vision is very good because animals move like a special color in their perspective, but still life seems to blend in with environmental colors. Because of the previous incident, the strong man listened patiently and nodded. Ha ha ha, although you're very clear, girl, I don't understand. What's dynamic, what's static, I don't understand. Melina's right hand stiffened for a moment, and she calmly placed it back on her thigh. Dragons can only see things that move clearly, and those that don't move can't see clearly. So when a dragon flies by, keep quiet. Stay still to avoid being attacked. Oh, I understand now. The closer the dragon turtle car approaches the Weeping Peninsula where Hamlet Town is located, the more desolate it becomes along the way. Original ecology. The wild magic factor scattered in the undeveloped primitive forest, giving birth to towering trees that were hundreds of meters high, and on the huge branches that separated from the towering trunk, there were some dragon nests resembling bird nests. Don't be fooled by the danger here, but as long as you come at noon, those dragons won't appear. You can collect a lot of good things here. I love this place so much. The local strong man whom Melina was interested in helping was very active in playing the role of a tour guide. Charlie not only acted as a collector, but also had a glorious past facing the small black dragon species with a body length of about 4 meters and a height of 2 meters, but more importantly, he helped with cargo transportation and collection work in several towns. You can tell by Charlie's sturdy physique. He is about 2.4 meters tall and has a terrifying muscle mass. Although his center of gravity is unstable, he is more than enough to do some collection work. If Melina stood up straight, she would be about the same size as the other person sitting down. Passing through the primitive forest, there is a grassland covered with hills, and then the primitive roads finally disappear, leaving only the desolate rural grass path that cannot be recognized without signs. The grass path eventually disappears into the volcanic mountain range near the Weeping Peninsula, and after passing through the huge rock walls, one can see the huge Weeping Peninsula. The terrain of the peninsula is nearly 100 meters above sea level, and the island structure is a concave sea erosion structure, with a large upper part and a narrow lower part. Hamlet town is located in the first half of the Weeping Peninsula, built on a huge mountain range called Gushan. The vast majority of its buildings are located on mountains of different heights, with the bottom layer being a city wall made of logs, enclosing a relatively flat plain. This plain called West Hamlet has the embryonic form of animal husbandry and agricultural product processing industry. This world is rich in resources, and humans have basically abandoned fixed animal husbandry and agriculture in favor of pure processing. East Hamlet is attached to a solitary mountain, which is the center of the town and also a residential area. The houses that looked unconventional were all located at the foot of the East Hamlet mountain, while the slightly more decent houses were situated halfway up the mountain. From the appearance, there is no place that looks like a commodity street, only a cluttered grocery street that can be seen at a glance. The entrance is guarded by a patrol team composed of rodents. They opened the door and let the dragon turtle carriage in, with an attitude that they couldn't see but kept complaining. After the dragon turtle car entered here, one could clearly feel the slowdown in speed, and one could feel the gradual calmness of the dragon turtles from the shaking of the car body. To be honest, it took some time for most local residents to unload the goods from the back of the carriage under the gate. The residents of Hamlet Town exchanged the wild wheat, potatoes, leeks, and other crops on the Weeping Peninsula, along with some small animals hunted by collectors, for fishing with the port town of Innsmouth outside the Weeping Peninsula. This ordinary exchange of goods between two towns embodies the fundamental principles of economics. Collectors like Charlie get off at the entrance of East Hamlet. There is a rudimentary gatherer guild here, where they exchange intelligence and materials, and the most basic forging system is also provided here. Marina and a businessman were left on the car. They got off at the official post office station in East Hamlet. The station in this area has already been integrated with the post office, and as Marina saw after getting off, the combination of the station and the post office is a large tiled house, with a strong smell of alcohol spreading through the open windows. Which is also used for tavern purposes. After getting off the car, the merchant ran towards the location of the grocery street in the same way as escaping. Melina wants to follow the path of the merchant's escape and explore the eastern part of Hamlet Town along the gravel road, which can be considered a street. She wants to observe the ecology of this small town established in a secluded land. It would be great if she could observe the unique architectural style created by the wisdom of survival. The climate change on the Crying Peninsula is quite extreme, and it happens to be the time of day and night when getting off the car. In just 5 minutes, Melina has gone from using magic factors to lower her body temperature and resist heatstroke to increasing her body temperature and resist cold. Extremely cold and hot like a desert, the architectural style has also begun to lean towards daytime ventilation and nighttime closure. She took the first step, and the luggage placed at her feet floated up due to magic. Someone walked out of the station. The white segmented skirt of the opponent was adorned with a bright silver armor in the middle, where the abdomen should have been exposed. The long skirt was sewn with steel armor, and the black long hair was tied with a sharp high ponytail. Her face is beautiful, but she possesses a more prominent delicacy compared to her own beauty. She is a female knight who immediately thinks of the princess, but feels extremely confident in her reaction. Her deep purple eyes have a hint of evil energy, making her look less like a righteous female knight. This woman is Melina's senior sister. She reached out her hand, lightly clenched her fist, and wore a wild smile. "Oh, thick rice." A greeting confessed the fact of being a traveler. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. The Girl Unable to Become an Explorer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The Girl Unable to Become an Explorer. The appearance of the senior sister is completely different from what I have seen before. The magnitude of the change is as if a quiet student girl with black hair and black glasses has transformed into a passionate and hot girl with blonde hair. Over the years, Melina's outstanding memory has left her impression of her senior sister stuck in the afternoon when she attended the grammar school. She stood on the steps and turned around to see the inconspicuous literary girl whose black hair caused a ripple in her heart. Looking back on that day, she made up her mind not to think that the other party, like herself, was also a traveler. After so many years, she showed characteristics that she had never seen before. Senior sister. Melina's gaze fixed on the other person's attire. "Now you have become an explorer, have you?" The senior sister frowned and looked up slightly. "Anyway, I am also a witch, and the witch will inevitably become an explorer. The female demon will inevitably become an explorer." This sentence made Melina's face cold. The female demon has an unparalleled advantage in controlling weapons due to its innate powerful magical factor. Even blood races and elves cannot compare with the female demon in this aspect. The reason why literary girls can quickly switch careers and become explorers is due to the advantage of natural magical factors. Magic factor, a substance that exists in every corner of the world like air. Divided into refined and non-refined, controllable and uncontrollable. Non-refined magical factors are mixed in the air, and the human body naturally secretes a special dopamine mixture to accommodate these non-refined magical factors. They are harmless and make people feel mentally happy. In the human body, they are refined by special organs in the human body of this world. The refined magic factor will be injected into the blood vessels, strengthening tendons, ligaments, and bones, transforming humans into superhumans. Uncontrollable magical factors exist on the earth, and various plants grow through the high nutrition and abnormal growth of uncontrollable magical factors, becoming plants with almost magical effects. The effect of magic factors will also become controllable, and minerals also have a stable and controllable structure of magic factors. With magical factors, humans are able to do many things that superhumans can do, such as retrieving objects from space, jumping 10 meters in one jump, and even resisting weaker dragon breath with bare hands. The reason why humans can become explorers is precisely because of this. The amount of refined magical factors throughout their bodies is enough to achieve a balance with the weapons that are washed by injecting magical factors. If armament is an explorer's organ, then the magic factor is the explorer's heart. There is only one reason why Melina cannot become an explorer. No armament can fit her heart. Desire to run like others in this 99% unknown realm of the world. She yearns for a brilliant and passionate life, rather than a life of complacency in the town, where she spends her days alone under protection, picking up countless secrets in the wilderness like small stones on the beach. She also yearns to become the pride of a place like countless boastful female demon explorers. You cannot say cruel words to a person who dreams of running. We cannot say in front of a female demon who cannot become an explorer, a female demon will inevitably become an explorer. Melina's magical elements on the surface of her body began to become active, and her silver hair began to take on characteristics similar to the melting of metal in flames. Senior sister. What does it mean? The female demon will inevitably become an explorer. A dangerous smile appeared on Melina's face. The other person's behavior is like saying in front of someone in a wheelchair, we people like us can definitely become long-distance runners. Sonia, if you want to provoke me, you have already done it. The super powerful magic factor is not only a curse, but also a blessing on the other hand. Melina doesn't need to be armed and can compete with small black or yellow dragon species. And if this ability is placed on confronting explorers, even experienced explorers who have fought against small red dragon species are just pieces of paper and toys in front of her. Although it's not enough to kill someone, beating up this senior who deceived me into coming to this remote area and still spoke sarcastically can still be forgiven, right? Melina's golden pupils began to shimmer with a strange red light. Stop and stop. Nas homie, stop and stop first, don't be in a hurry. Sonia made a gesture with her 5 fingers together and her palm moving forward, would I not know your question? Yes, she calls herself a rebirth. Come and sit down at my house first, Sonia said, suddenly thinking of something else and smiling mischievously. My house is quite big. Hold it back. Melina closed her eyes slightly. You can also entertain yourself with black tea. Sneered. Sonia let out a hearty laugh and said, what's going on? You look so good when you smile. The senior sister is noisy and has a charm that makes people unconsciously take off their psychological guard. When Melina realized this charm, she had already stood side by side in front of a double-decker villa built on the cliff halfway up the mountain. The area is not small, with multiple ancient and primitive stone columns forming the basic structure of the exterior wall, and a large number of plants and a flowing water landscape forming the entire exterior wall. Behind the wall is a large grassy space with several small thatched huts like greenhouses. Facing it is the double-decker villa, with a hint of rural style and a tall chimney that exudes a sense of Japanese fantasy. It's like an illustration. Sonia walked into the illustration and turned to greet her with a familiar greeting. What are you waiting for? Come in quickly. Melina walked over, her luggage floating behind her. I know your problem, Sonia said as she opened the door. The overly powerful magic factor has become a curse that shackles you. No matter what kind of weapon you have in your hand, it won't last for more than 10 seconds and will be destroyed. You are like a super powerful power source, and any device connected to you will be directly charged. Believe me, my rebirth is meaningful, thick rice. She paused for a moment. Smile and push open the door. Welcome to my dream home. The world inside the door is like a complete explorer camp, with various enthusiast-level facilities, including facilities for alchemy, weapon forging, armor building, equipment maintenance, and more. In the center of the cleaned room, there is a small living space separated by soundproof curtains at all 4 corners. Sonia said, this is a public area, the bathroom is in the basement, and the sleeping area is upstairs. Is there any problem? There are too many questions. Melina tugged at the corner of her mouth. Please speak. Sonia hugged her arm, turned around, and sat firmly on the sofa in the small hall, her slender thighs folded together. Melina took a deep breath. I guess I didn't express that I didn't have a place to live. The dogs in Hamlet don't bark when they come, and the hotel garbage is like that of Innsmouth. What's even more terrifying is... Sonia lowered her voice like a horror story. After defecating, there's only a brush left. The front half of the bathroom is the public restroom, and the back half is the bathhouse, while on my end. Her face was filled with the pride of a traveler. There is a flush toilet and warm water for flushing. There is also a separate bathroom, an outdoor bath in the courtyard, and an alchemy to prevent mosquitoes and insects. Melina closed her eyes. Do you think this way you can bribe me? She originally intended to say so. But there's no way, it's true that this way we can bribe her. Marina silently agreed to stay and waved away all her luggage. Sonia smiled and said, "Great. Let's talk about the transaction now." "So fast." "Just so fast." Sonia pointed to herself and said, "I was born to save the world." Her words were incredibly confident, or rather, incredibly convinced of this. Marina couldn't help but be intimidated by her courage. "Sisters, I don't know if you have this feeling," Sonia said. "We were born here, must be supported by some kind of chaotic logic, that is, you see, I am not only passing through, but also reborn. I saw so much in that week, and felt so much. There must be a reason for me to enter this fortnight, let me make up for it, and save everything." Sonia said. "This is my motivation for doing things. I'll help you overcome the dilemma of not being an explorer. Can you help me once?" "Once." Melina is somewhat sensitive to quantifiers. There will be many crises. Have you played MMO games before? Our world is similar to a game, with big events being the destruction of the world, medium events being the destruction of the country, and small events being the destruction of the city. However, I can't take advantage of kindness and demand that you and I keep dealing with the mess, can I? Once, just once, I need time to develop. As long as I get through the first time, I have a certain confidence in achieving a good ending." Sonia chuckled. Melina nodded. What troubles her now is her inability to become an explorer. If what the other party says is true, then becoming an explorer will have enough power to determine her own destiny. "Great, sisters, your character is really gentle now." Sonia applauded happily. "My senior sister is very familiar with herself." Melina has a contradictory mentality towards this sudden acquaintance. On the one hand, the other is almost a complete body prophet, and on the other hand, she appears to be in a transparent state to the other, while the other is almost completely transparent to herself. "You?" Melina couldn't help but ask. "You treat me." She said seriously, "Who the hell is that?" Sonia fell silent for a moment and smiled, saying, "I should say what kind of person you are to me." She paused for a moment. "Melina, you will be the one who killed me. You will be the witch who fell into the underworld. You will be one of the top 5 explorers in the world." New book seeking support, end of this chapter. Chapter 3. Exact Hope. Thanks to the great fairy with green hair, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Exact Hope. Thanks to the leader of the green-haired fairy, in your first week, I killed you. Melina curiously said, "It seems that my story is a tragic one, otherwise I cannot imagine my personality changing to the extreme of killing you, my senior sister." Sonia's mind flashed back with a sinister and crazy burst of laughter, her expression stiffening. She swallowed her saliva, nodded in the void with her index finger. "Melina. You wouldn't want to know." Without waiting for Melina to ask further, she hurriedly hammered her barren chest with her fist. Skipping this matter, in short, our main focus is on a conviction that disregards past grievances and is not empty. "Alright, Risby. My senior sister has changed everything, it's just her body shape." Melina vaguely estimated that my senior sister is about 1.8 meters tall, but this is a bit difficult to handle. Although I am short, I am tall enough. Realizing that she would never be able to hammer her chest like her senior sister, Risby reached out and punched her opponent, then opened the door and asked directly. "How can I equip myself to become an explorer?" "This issue needs to be traced back to your characteristics and the characteristics of your armament," Sonia said. "There is indeed an upper limit on the magic factor that weapons can withstand, and it is not weapon quality that determines this upper limit, but weapon type. Therefore, your situation will be incurable for a long time in the future." Although Sonia's words hit Melina's pain point. But this actually gave her expectations. She was not afraid that the doctor would exaggerate the severity of your problem, or that the doctor wouldn't even be able to see your problem. That was the scariest and most desperate thing. The capacity of the beheading sword is the lowest, and the capacity of the musket is the highest, but even the highest capacity musket cannot withstand the invasion of your magical factor. Sonia sighed and said, excessive talent has become your shackles, and the solution to this problem is very simple, just use plural weapons. Melina frowned deeply. She has also tried the idea of using multiple armaments at the same time, all using the highest capacity firearms. However, this is not a simple 1+1 problem, as armaments involve very sophisticated magic factor distribution technology. The absorption of magic factors by armaments has always been full power, and this power cannot be reduced yet. Therefore, even if two firearms are held in Melina's hand, one will be blown up first, blow up another one. Melina's brows eased again as she thought of the other person's rebirth. The future self may have a way to solve it. However, even if the other party is using future Melina's solution to demand benefits from themselves, it is still a good thing. Not lending future funds is Melina's way of handling things. It's not just a simple two-handed, one hand each for the inferior, plural armament. Sonia reached out her hand and opened her 5 fingers, at least 5, you're too powerful, Melina. You need at least 5 identical weapons to withstand your extravagance, and even more is better. 5 weapons. Melina pondered the design of holding 2 with both hands, tying 2 with both feet, and finally tying 1 on her head. She shuddered with fear, but if that were the case, she was willing to accept it. Getting strength is the happiest thing for her now. However, this ridiculous conjecture was shattered by Sonia. After observing her words and expressions, she roughly understood what was going on in Melina's little brain, so she smiled bitterly and waved her hand. Oh, it's not like that, it's not what you think, it's a floating weapon. 5 weapons float by your side, and in the future, you will be a big shot. In the future, there will even be pioneer competitions to boost morale and entertainment. You have a column introduction, and it is precisely because of your column that I have determined the level of, this knife girl is indeed a time traveler. However, at that time, you were already too vigilant, and I, who was disturbing you, died under the double-edged sword of Bai. Hey, it's still understandable. 5 weapons spinning around her. I have to say, this idea made Melina even want to laugh happily. Compared to the version with 4 limbs tied to weapons, this one is indeed much more pleasing to the eye. However, can precision control of floating weapons in the air be achieved? Arms are not just weapons, they contain a series of profound magical knowledge. Using a single-fired gun for continuous firing, and using a single-handed knife to unleash a move resembling a teleportation, armament is not just a weapon, but a device that transforms itself into a weapon. After equipping with weapons, it requires a long training and learning process, as well as detailed fine-tuning of movements by training instructors with a maximum of 1.1 teaching quality. After thoroughly mastering the usage of armament, it is necessary to carry out minor modifications to the armament, including counterweights, grips, cladding, and various special accessories. It takes about 10 years for an explorer to master a certain type of armament from scratch, and it takes about a week of adaptation to replace it after mastering it. With such complex equipment, the possibility of being able to control it smoothly with magical factors is almost non-existent, and if you exert force out of thin air, the disadvantage is too great. You can do it. Sonia believes in her talent even more than Melina herself. Sisters, if you hadn't become a wheelchair person, you would definitely have the potential to be number 1. Well, you let slip. Wheelchair person. Melina couldn't imagine what her future self would be like. Anyway, sisters, Risby. Sonia beat her chest again, I invite you to Hamlet town not only because my sister has a piece of land here. She said optimistically, but in the future, a mineral deposit called Tarui Crystal Mine has been discovered near Hamlet town. It is a crystal that absorbs the energy of the Earth's veins to the fullest. A small piece can replace nearly half a ton of energy crystals, enough for Hamlet town, a town that doesn't bark for dogs, to use for 6 months. This mineral also has the function of absorbing magical factors to establish circuits. That is to say, although it will divert the total magical factor of an explorer, in the case of full, it will bring a feeling like the third and fourth limbs. Melina probably understands how her future self becomes an explorer. So, in the future, I will be able to control the ability of 5 weapons because all 5 weapons are crafted from this crystal mine. Can't others do it? I can't do it. Sonia simply denied this point. Your magic factor reserves are close to the Earth's veins. You should know that even if the female demon wants to feed a full weapon, or even burst it, it is impossible to do it. This can be said to be your exclusive cheat. At the same time, to correct what you said, it is not using this mineral to create weapons. Instead, it's about using this mineral to create an accessory that gives the weapon the trait of being manipulated. This is something to be happy about, Melina smiled. Sonia scratched her hair. It's rare, Xiaomei. Xiaomei. Sonia expressed her confusion directly with an attitude that she had never met before but had already established a deep friendship. I thought you wouldn't laugh over such things. This voice is quite clear and does not contain any malice. Melina lowered her head, her gaze fixed on her luggage, and said. It seems that you don't know me well. The person who is about to fulfill his long-cherished wish and still has to endure a smile can only be a fool. Melina showed no concern for her excitement in front of Sonia. As if to strike a blow at Melina, Sister Sonia said in a playful tone, don't be so happy so early. Don't forget that you have to help me. In the crisis I have to face, being able to easily destroy the creatures in Hamlet with just one breath can be said to be basic, with plus, luxury plus, Blizzard Collection Edition. How dare they sell for $100? It's just one. Melina maintains an optimistic attitude and explains from the perspective of, you are a reborn, since you have chosen me, it means that I must have the ability to solve the dragon you want to slaughter. Otherwise, why did you choose me? Is there a possibility that if I am a super ketone, I will choose a beautiful one? Melina moved aside to make room for the distance between the two. Oh. You're too impolite and impolite, aren't you? Senior, I'm also a rare beauty, right? You have money, talent, and the vest line you've recently developed. Vest line. Melina instinctively looked over and saw the other person wanting to show off their abdominal armor, then quickly turned her head away. She closed her eyes slightly. Anyway, just get rid of one. Well, although there are many, only the first one is that I want you to help me for free, and I will use various rare and exotic intelligence payments in the future. Melina opened her eyes and turned her head. The senior sisters cannot seek revenge with kindness is somewhat similar to the scumbags just touching his head. Sonia pursed her lips and outlined a sinister smile of bad currency. Perhaps, dear student, you haven't accounted for it yet and can't understand why I said pay with the intelligence of rare treasures. Anyway, let me tell you about the difficulties you will face after becoming an explorer. Let's start with math problems and I'll ask you, what is the price of a basic iron weapon? The two-handed sword is about 100 gold lei, the small knife is 40 gold lei, and the musket is 300 gold lei, Melina replied. Jin lei is the only common currency in this world, with a purchasing power of approximately 100 yuan bills from previous lifetimes. To put it more simply, 2 orders of 648 is equal to 13 Jin lei, about 6 small knives, 15 two-handed swords, and more than 45 firearms are equivalent to less than 3 public version 4090 graphics cards. After a quick conversion in her heart, Melina's face turned white, her lips turned blue, and her hands unconsciously covered her mouth. Wait. Wait a moment. Do I need to install at least 5 weapons? Do I need to upgrade them simultaneously? Sonia Tsked. And sisters, your list of weapons is not cheap in a week. The main thing is a full life, and the main thing is a full oil weapons. In addition, many of the materials you need to build weapons are hard to find. Many senior explorers can only build one piece of weapons in 2 years. You need at least 5 pieces, huh? Wait, are you okay? Melina leaned back on the sofa and gazed at the ceiling. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The capable senior sister of banknotes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The capable senior sister of banknotes. With the certainty that she will save every penny in the future, Melina is no longer so resistant to staying at Dessau Manor. Or rather, the luggage has been put down. Those who are determined to be shameless will also settle down here. Even if Sister Sonia hinted again that she was a super Lu ketone, Melina did not hesitate. Me, Melina, I only recognize money. Her heart was roaring like this, but when she went up to look at the room, Melina still felt uneasy, afraid of seeing a double bed. Ding dong, Sonia hummed a melody that resembled the rhythm of Red Sun and opened the door, leading her in. Melina followed in, with luggage floating behind her. When she saw the layout of the room clearly, she took a deep breath. This is a room of a size reminiscent of a conference room, with a round table and 3 chairs in the center. Behind the 3 chairs, there are 3 spaces covered by thick curtains. 2 of them have been opened, and inside is a private space equivalent to a single room. The upper layer is a double bed, and the lower layer is a small personal room with a combination bed. The left side is a luggage storage rack, and the right side is an arms and equipment storage rack. The ground is covered with a thick red carpet. In addition to the 3 main rooms, there are also 5 zones. The alchemy workshop, forging furnace room, hot spring bathroom, and indoor greenhouse. Luxury cannot be further luxurious. If you want to stay in a hotel of this level outside, it may take 30 gold lei a day. Sonia had been secretly paying attention to Melina's expression, and seeing this enchanting and charming schoolgirl constantly showing a satisfied expression, she happily crossed her hands on her hips and proudly asked in her clear voice. How about it? This is an expensive magic room, and its body is actually the size of a turtle carriage. Melina, with a hint of restraint, leaned on a lace umbrella and looked up at Sonia's face. Okay, I can't believe it's true. Ha ha ha. Sonia let out a worthless tycoon laugh and even suggested, do you want to pinch your face and see if you're sober? Melina frowned. Before Sonia could say anything, she saw the other person walking up to her, tiptoeing and pinching her face with both hands. It's about you pinching yourself. Soft fingers, overflowing talent from looking down, and a silly smile that cannot be suppressed after doing something wrong. Faced with such a girl, Sonia could only consider herself unlucky, take a few steps back, and mutter, what a disgusting straight woman, she's really a straight woman. It's not going well. She clapped her hands. You can arrange the remaining room yourself. I'll wait for you downstairs. By the way, in the future, the facilities downstairs can be used as you please. You need to check if our roommates are using the facilities upstairs. First come, first served. Roommate. Melina only then noticed the room she had overlooked. In another room without the sign, Sonia's boudoir, you can see a well-decorated mineral specimen wall and display cabinets with a large number of different soils and rocks. There is a very new and expensive observation microscope and magic factor extractor in the personal room under the bed. A very obvious personal style. He is also a traveler. Melina began to doubt whether the intruder was on a bad street. She's also a witch. Melina couldn't hold back and glanced at Sonia, asking in a strange tone, are you also your junior sister? Do you have other junior sisters who are better at chatting than me? Sonia's hands on her hips. Actually, she is our senior who is proficient in various minerals and is also an excellent material processing master. In her previous life, she was the one who won the Melina Cup victory. When Melina heard something wrong, she emphasized. I'll say it again, I'm not ketone. Sonia was very obedient and didn't say a word. Her purple eyes scanned Melina with a look of bad money. This look was really annoying. When she was about to provoke Melina, she calmly said. Not yet. This sentence makes people feel flustered. Sonia didn't wait for her to savor this sentence. All right, anyway, the facilities on the top of this room are on a first-come, first-served basis, and the facilities below are being used casually. I'll go down first, you put your things away, remember to change into a more convenient outfit for activities. Hey. That's not bad for you. Anyway, just wear what suits you and come down later. We have something to do later. Noon is a good time. What's going on? Dig the mine. I know the excavation site of the Terui crystal mine. Although there may be some dragons nearby, don't worry, I have hired a professional team. Professional team. Marina couldn't help but imagine the enchanting music and the swaying Africa morning team. Sonia saw her expression and her eyes twitched, revealing a cunning smile. She tapped her tablet again with her left hand. Reesby, I understand what you mean. But it's not that kind of team. It's a thick and professional hunting team, very pro. Even if it's just us two useless people. Oh, even if we can't shoot a single shot, they can still bring us back intact. It's not yet the era of spiritual revival. Is there anything else? No problem. Sonia received a response and walked out of the room. The sound of the metal plates caressing her skirt became lighter, like the friction between shrubs, the fit between leaves, and a rustling sound. If it were in the forest, it would be a cunning camouflage sound for most hearing dragons. Explorers usually have carefully crafted armor that also requires magic factors to activate and connect in order to use, but unlike armor is not overwhelmed by magic factors. These armor will serve as a magic factor docking station, allowing an explorer to adapt to more magic factor accessories, such as enhanced jumping power, regeneration ability. Similarly, the cost of high performance is their high value. Fortunately, Melina doesn't need to buy 5 sets of this thing. Melina first put her luggage in the storage cabinet, clicked her fingers, and the suitcases opened one after another. She looked at the size of the personal room table under the bed and had a plan in mind. Read the magic blueprint, workbench 4, the magic factor quickly selects items from various suitcases and places them on the table. By using magic factors to record the placement of items and storing this position as a blueprint, and then releasing this magic when there are stored items in the luggage, one can quickly reproduce their blueprint. Many people who can use magic will have the same room decoration, which is also the role of this magic. A huge map sand table, a large amount of magical clay, a brass steam engine storing magical factors, a display cabinet filled with clay clothes drying through magic, and several classical cameras. Making dolls is Melina's interest and industry, and high-quality dolls are very popular in Wangdu. Looking at her work items, Melina cast a protective spell. After the magic factor covered these items, Melina held her umbrella and went downstairs. Downstairs, Sonia is in the alchemy workshop, tapping with some utensils. Upon hearing Melina walk down, she turned around with an exaggerated smile on her sweaty face. She waved her hand and said, "Oh, it's going to be soon." Melina's attention was completely drawn to the brass metal charm of the crossbow placed on the countertop by the other party. It was nearly 1.3 meters long, with a smooth keel in the middle. The crossbow arms had mechanisms for storage, and when opened, the brass crossbow arms were covered with brass scales, making it very gorgeous. The bowstring made of thickened triple composite metal fibers is extremely sturdy, and the theme features a large number of brass gear-made upper cord winches. This is the brass series, known in the explorer industry as the finest newbie weapon. Value for money, price for quality. At the same time, as a novice weapon, it has already been equipped with 3 luxurious shooting accessories, which are enhanced accessories that can make ordinary crossbows and arrows pierce through dragon skin. It's all money. Why did you choose the crossbow for your armament? Looking at Sonia's attire, Melina thought it was something like a knight's sword shield, two-handed sword, or knight's hammer shield, but she didn't expect it to be a crossbow. No, it's a light crossbow. Sonia put away what she had installed, and the shining magic factor light made Melina realize that it was a magical crossbow arrow. Sonia tilted her head and smiled brightly at her. Easy light, crossbow of crossbows, light crossbows. According to armed classification, it's a crossbow, Melina muttered involuntarily. Have you decided what weapon you want to use? This question actually troubled Melina. She has some subtle selection difficulties, unable to choose one of the three types of Lamian noodles, unable to play games, unable to choose one of the three skin types, and unable to choose the favorite one from the three lovers. The last one is a joke, but she is really troubled by this selection difficulty. Before knowing that she cannot be an explorer, she really had imagination. Are you selecting from the 6 basics? Sword, axe, hammer, spear, bow, two-handed sword. Or choose from the 3 new eras. Crossbows, muskets, and double barrels. Armed with a variety of weapons, these 9 can only be considered common, and even include cards, scepters, and mechanical dogs, puppets. Of course, there are also Eastern-style weapons such as Tai Dao, Ku Wu, and Shou Jian, which seem to have absorbed a lot of the culture of travelers in this world. At first, Melina decided on a two-handed sword, but it was only based on being held in both hands. If we were to refer to floating 5 at the same time, the two-handed sword seemed a bit too slow. Sonia looked at her words and said with a smile, let's think about it along the way. The hunting troop I'm looking for this time happens to be multi-armed explorers. You can find some inspiration from the battle. A multi-armed explorer is one who prepares 2 armed explorers that can switch flexibly during combat. Even for such multi-armed explorers, the main armament will have a higher level than the secondary armament, and they will not practice 2 armaments at the same time, which puts too much economic pressure. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Echo Team. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Echo Team. After leaving the estate and walking down for nearly half a kilometer, we arrived at the open-air gathering place near the edge of the grassland in East Hamlet. With a stone and brick walled the Weeping Peninsula is a remote extraterrestrial land, and there is no dedicated adventurer guild in this area, only this type of gatherer guild. This is also a lively place. The Gatherer Guild of the entire Crying Peninsula is probably the only place with a climate here, because Hamlet town is located at the entrance of the Crying Peninsula, connected to the neighboring inland port town called Haiwan. Whether it is to transport goods, or to rest the crew for long-distance voyages, or to supply points for hunting groups targeting flying dragons, they will pass through Haiwan, and after passing through Haiwan, they will naturally come to Hamlet town for procurement. The only block advantage in remote areas is that the purchase price of raw materials is low enough. The flying dragon scales have reached the price range of 100 scales per 1 golden lei, while in the country, this price range can be as high as 65 scales per 1 golden lei. Dragon blood is cheaper because its scale maintenance activity is simple, while dragon blood loses its activity too quickly. The difference between local and market prices is 2.5 times. Near each collector's booth, you can see a special ventilated small fur tent with thick fur armor inside. This is the vendor's own clothes. In the morning, they wear them like a seaside holiday, and at night, they wear fur coats. This is also due to the influence of the high altitude, seaside location, and unique isolated mountain terrain of the Weeping Peninsula. Noticing Melina's gaze that had already been drawn away by cheap materials, Sonia reluctantly patted the other person's arm. I'll be staying here for a while, you have plenty of time to see for yourself. I'm just paying attention to the construction of the local social structure. Melina casually retorted. Sonia spread out her hand and said, I didn't say anything. Then her expression changed and she waved to the front, haha, we're here. Melina looked ahead and was met by an elderly man wearing a Gothic armor called the mineral oak armor. He had a grayish Greek beard and was slightly taller than his senior sister. He was holding a cigar in his mouth, with a shield hanging from his back, and a steel flail hanging from his left waist. The blade-shaped protrusion on the flail ball was made of a silver dragon scale. He was accompanied by two short, blonde-haired girls with double ponytails, who were twins wearing improved mineral armor. The thickness of the front breastplate was reduced, and there were more gaps in the thigh armor. The back half of the leg armor was also empty, minimizing weight. One of them carried a two-handed hammer and the other carried a two-handed axe. This giant weapon, paired with a petite body shape, had the advantage of having an agile speed that ordinary two-handed weapons did not have. The disadvantage is that it is delivered quickly, and can be knocked down to the KO level by the weakest average black dragon species among the four-colored dragons with just one tail. Melina also noticed that although they were all oak armor, the old man's armor was noticeably brighter, while the other two had undergone a dark treatment. Shield hammer attracts firepower. Dual-handed heavy weapons take advantage of the opportunity to output good tactics. At the same time, the three of them also had curved blades hanging on their backs, a spliced short spear, and a stack of painless spears. The blunt force team has been mentioned in the academy for this type of team pairing. The second armament paired with it is the bloodletting team. It is indeed very professional. Enemies that cannot be solved with blunt weapons are generally afraid of this bloodletting weapon, and enemies that cannot be defeated with bloodletting are also generally afraid of blunt weapons. Of course, this is just a common situation. This type of team configuration is basically unable to defeat flying dragons, super flying dragons, and super land dragons. The frontal resistance of shield hammer is too weak, and the equipment of lowly heavy martial is indeed too fragile. While Melina was still objectively evaluating, Sonia had already stepped forward and suddenly put on a posture, with a cold face, clenching her left hand and smashing it downwards. The old man reacted faster, clenching his right hand and smashing it upwards. The fists of the two wearing armor made a loud sound as they touched each other up and down. The next second, they will start flashy punches, high fives, and low fives. Sonia roared in a terrifying woodchuck-like volume, "Senior." The old man also shouted in a roaring voice, "Junior." The twin sisters shook their heads and sighed. Two idiots. They noticed Melina's eyes, probably because her height was very close to that of the two sisters, so the sister of the two sisters said to Melina friendly. "Hello, the newcomer in our team has made you laugh." Newcomer. Melina reacted. "Ah, isn't it the captain? This person has a face of 70 or 80, is he actually a newcomer?" Melina fell into a state of confusion. The old man glanced at her and reached out to tug at her beard, saying, "Who is this?" "My junior sister, Melina," Sonia said, pointing to the old man again. "Joe Don Quixote, my senior." "Melina, you are from the elite class and we only have the same major course, so I don't know about Don Quixote's reputation in the college. Life is not just about smooth sailing, nor is it just about giving up after sinking." The senior entered the college at the age of about 20, but gave up his studies due to various reasons. Finally, he returned to the college at the age of 70 and graduated in 5 years. Explorers in their 70s are also common occurrences. The human body, improved by magical factors, can greatly prolong its lifespan and maintain its peak even if it is not from those few races. Melina nodded. Sonia pointed to the blonde twin with two ponytails. "Also, the one with double ponytails on the left is Lei, and the one with blonde hair on the right is Cheong." Two blonde-haired students with double ponytails glared at their senior sister. Don Quixote pulled his beard again and nodded vigorously. "Sister Marina, all you need to remember is that Lei has blonde hair on the left and Joan has double ponytails on the right." "Hey!" Lei widened her eyes and snorted heavily with a hot temper. Cheong grabbed Lei's hand and blinked gently at Melina. "I am my younger sister, and this is my elder sister. If my elder sister says anything foolish, please forgive me. Our response team will give our all for this work. Please make sure to exert valuable trust. Melina leaned on her umbrella and nodded slightly. I'm sorry to trouble you this time. I guarantee my personal trust. Strange noises came from beside, and Sonia covered her mouth with both hands. What a reliable and handsome schoolgirl. The old man Don Quixote made the same movement. What a handsome and reliable senior. The cost of employment has been negotiated, but it seems that Melina's arrival is not expected, so an additional fee is needed. Just add one person, your team wants me 300 gold lei, it's too expensive. Sonia argued with reason. It's very cheap, there's no more team outside willing to take you into the red dragon hunting area at this price point. Looking at Xiong, who was a bit weak, she turned out to be the captain of the Echo team and held the pricing power. She didn't show any mercy when negotiating prices, even saying, as an explorer just made by my senior sister, like a miscellaneous fish, we have to work hard to take care of you, and we also need to add a protective object, even said these words. Melina glanced at both of them, but her mind was filled with thoughts about Sonia. It seems that Sister Sonia is not 100% certain that she will come, so it seems that the other person was not very familiar with themselves before their rebirth. Strange sounds came from beside me again. Oh, Junior. Oh, Senior. Sonia had already embraced Joan with a posture that made her want to report to the police, and Joan had a sickly expression on her face, indicating that she had agreed on a price. 2 people are running at full speed on the main road, with 3 members of the Echo team ahead. How much did you spend? Melina secretly bit her ears with Sonia. 200, her offer is too dark. Actually, around 180 is enough, but we need to rely on them to save trouble and give more. Sonia has a sunny smile on her face. Starting from East Hamlet to the wilderness only requires walking. However, the explorer's walk was a long sprint run, and the members of the Echo team still ran lightly with heavy loads on their backs, chatting while running, and preparing to leave the town and enter the wilderness. This special oversized team, 3+2, ran all the way, easily surpassing 2 cavalry patrolling on wild boars, and ran out of Hamlet town in the admiring eyes of the gatekeeper. When running at a certain speed, the feeling of body freedom is released without reservation. It's like consciousness sinking into the clouds. When the speed has reached the point where the dragon turtle car can catch up at full speed, the magic factor will automatically condense in both eyes and the front of the body, isolating the oncoming sand and allowing oxygen to flow into the body through the wind pressure around it to ensure breathing. Passing through the grassland by the town and approaching a wilderness, the members of the Echo team slowed down. The speed of the entire team suddenly changed to only normal jogging speed. Although reading the explorer's books and adventure logs day and night, Melina still didn't understand why she slowed down. She turned her gaze to Sonia for help. After the senior sister slowed down, the black single ponytail bounced back and forth, revealing an extremely youthful aura. She turned her head and saw Melina's gaze, then slowed down a bit and ran alongside her. What's wrong, Xiaomei? Her voice after exercising is sweet and clear, reminiscent of summer honey iced tea. Why slow down? Well, Sonia thought for a moment, to ensure visibility. Vision. It's just our field of vision. When we run at full speed, our line of sight unconsciously keeps moving forward, so after slowing down, we can ensure that our field of vision can capture most of the information. In game terms, we have entered the stage of slowing down and collecting materials. The things in books are still somewhat imperfect. Melina, with a sense of novelty and learning, watched as the Echo group in front slowly scattered 1 or 2 people picking up some flowers, plants, bones, and stones along the way and putting them in their backpacks. However, this arrogant act of looting along the way will indeed be punished. The dragon is the ruler of this externalized land of human civilization. Because the overly publicized sounds of uprooting grass, chopping wood, and mining were disturbing, they rushed out to hunt. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. 6 Blades. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. 6 Blades. The deep yellow dragon scales look quite alert, and the deep red skin shows its lines well in the sunlight. The dragon that appears around the wilderness has a slender body and sharp tail. Its almost degenerated wings have become some kind of receiving organ for absorbing magical factors, and it still retains the typical dragon-like animal's double-facing back, long dragon horns, and long dragon snout head, which looks like a huge threat. When it appeared, the air around it began to become sticky and humid, even the warm grass on the ground, which was exposed to sunlight, began to become muddy. Melina, who was familiar with the complete list of dragons, immediately recognized this type of dragon. The swamp dragon. Through the illustrations and explanations of the Dragon Encyclopedia, Melina, who stays at home, can easily laugh because this type of dragon is called the swamp dragon, scientifically known as the sharp-toothed reptile wingless dragon, which actually does not live in swamps. It is called the swamp dragon only because they spread magical factors that deceive human senses, making people mistake it for a black dragon species that stays in swamps. And if we face it head on, it is 6 meters long and nearly 2 meters high, with forelimbs thicker than Melina's waist. Just a glance at this black dragon species is enough to make people lose their fighting spirit and engage in 2 battles. Numa Long, it's just an adult individual. Joan, the dominant sister in the blonde twin ponytails, made a preliminary assessment with a hint of regret in her voice. Is she just over 6 meters tall? Don Quixote, Sr., please attack with the goal of attracting attention. Received. After a brief answer, Don Quixote took off his shield, removed his steel shackles, and walked forward with steady steps, while making threatening noises. The sound of shouting echoed through the shield, and the magical factor quickly spread out. Don Quixote's already silver armor was covered with a layer of white air waves. The muddy feeling in the air suddenly disappeared. The original ability of the swamp dragon was to create illusions by interfering with the senses through magical factors. Therefore, the shield hammer technique, named Warfare Roar, can be perfectly restrained. It uses special magical factors to condense a layer of reinforcement to strengthen the body, and dispels malicious magical factors around it through calls. This is its principle. The magic factor's ability was deciphered, and the swamp dragon felt provoked, emitting a dragon roar similar to a strong nasal barking. Its front paws grabbed the ground, using unreasonable brute force to lie on the ground, combined with powerful kicking movements from its hind limbs. Its sharp claws, like a harvesting sickle, slammed heavily towards Don Quixote. Don Quixote's basic skills were solid, combined with the shield attached to the magic factor to tilt and release its power. He took this blow head on and retreated 2 or 3 steps and scathed in the loud noise. This is not a turn-based game. The body performance of the swamp dragon is extremely terrifying. After one strike is blocked, another strike has already been struck, and at the same time, its tail is also swept. A series of loud noises kept erupting. Although Don Quixote, the main defender, was not injured, he was indeed constantly injured by a huge recoil force, and the magical factor on his body had been transformed into green to restore his body skills. Another signature skill of Hammer's shield armor is Echo Rebirth. The anti-seismic effect generated by the enemy's continuous attacks, combined with specific ranking magic factors attached to the shield, becomes a restorative ability. Xiong held the hammer with both hands, and Lei, who was holding the axe with both hands, had already moved sensitively and quietly spread left and right, surrounding the swamp dragon. How about the shield hammer? Sister Sonia just set up her crossbow, brass series crossbow, on the winch, loaded a crossbow arrow, and began to fish openly, chatting with Melina. The floating 5-sided shield can defend, and the hammer's killing power is also decent. Not good. Melina shook her head. She doesn't really like the combination of shields, and besides, floating 5 shields in the air sound strange. In the blink of an eye during the conversation, the situation had already undergone significant changes. The swamp dragon made a fierce forward thrust, like a wolf, pressing its claws onto Don Quixote's shield, while its other claw dangerously pressed against his helmet, making a sound of tartaric metal cutting. But the moment when the two claws of the swamp dragon were off the ground, only the support of its hind limbs remained. Joan made a move. Lightweight equipment, directly thinned armor, and a slightly lighter two-handed hammer compared to the standardized heavy two-handed weapon. The result of the life-threatening improvement on these equipment is that Xiong rushed to the back of the Numa dragon with lightning speed that completely did not match the bulky speed of the two-handed weapon, and used a unique move. The body fell backwards, but the whole person was still floating forward as if there was inertia, while dragging the heavy hammer with both hands to wave. This awkward move was extremely like waving a baseball bat vigorously, resulting in a move like falling backwards. Sacrifice strike is a joking term for this move, which uses magical factors to turn the impact and weight of the entire person into power. And because of the backward tilt, it easily avoided the sweeping of the sharp tail of the swamp dragon. The hammerhead has intimate contact with the joints of the hind limbs of the swamp dragon. The heavy hammer made a steady thumping sound, and then the hind limbs, covered with some dark yellow scales, along with the tough keel, were struck into a twisted arc. This is a disabling blow. The swamp dragon almost fell to the ground at once, emitting a mournful howl, but with a fierce claw that almost twisted its waist, it pulled back. However, Xiong was quite clever, and after a successful strike, she used inertia to continuously roll on the ground. At the same time, Liang stepped forward and charged his two-handed axes to jump and smash, cutting off the tail of the swamp dragon. In almost an instant, the swamp dragon transformed into a state of limb disability and half of its tail cut off. But the three members of the Echo Squad were even more careful, patiently switching out bloodletting weapons and slowly engaging in a fierce battle with the increasingly fierce Numa dragon. Hammer or axe? Sonia asked leisurely. Melina has encountered a type of weapon that appeals to her heart. Whether it's a simple and violent two-handed hammer or a timing-sensitive two-handed axe, both have a rough and violent aesthetic in them. If controlled by floating means, it can greatly enhance maneuverability, just like Joan and Ray. It has to be said that the lowly dual-wielding weapon is indeed one of the mainstream armed equipment in this world. As long as the strength can keep up, the agility is definitely faster than the normal Big Brother dual-wielding weapon. It's quite easy to find a lowly with the power of a subordinate big guy, but it's not easy to find a big guy with the agility of a subordinate lowly, so in many explorers, the majority of those who wield this type of two-handed weapon are either the Lolita Masato type or the teenage girl type. Let's take a look. Melina didn't rush to make a decision. Be careful. Sonia joked, no matter how bad it is, you can use a two-handed sword and directly transform into Ionia with an indestructible will. Melina watched the performance of the second arm of the Echo Squad. Don Quixote's curved shield is obviously not as good as the shield hammer, but with his rich experience and lower magical factor occupancy of this type of weapon, his speed and strength have significantly improved. The elderly breakthrough hand in his 70s has started to exert force, playing with the speed and passion of the old man chatting about youth madness. Xiong, on the other hand, switched to a spliced short spear and began a set of jumping attacks that flew back and forth. Coupled with the slender body shape of the girl, she was like a dancing fairy, requiring strength and beauty, speed and beauty, and effectiveness and beauty. In short, Melina is not very optimistic and can only say, "My Joan is playing very well, Joan is beautiful alone." Because the Numa dragon didn't take her seriously, and she couldn't pierce the scales on Numa dragon's back, and couldn't release blood. After giving up the two-handed axe that opened and closed wide, Lei adopted an arm that was free from projection and wandering around. The magic factor occupancy rate of this type of weapon, Kowu, is particularly high because it must be attached to the recycling magic, otherwise it will be thrown and run out of ammunition. As for its lethality, it is surprisingly good. Probably because steel Kowu has a penetration rate of armor, and Lei belongs to the strange power lowly type, so the throne Kowu still has lethality. What about these three? Sonia is more urgent than expected. I don't know if it's a misconception from Melina, but I always feel like this guy has a feeling of finally getting an SSR and not equipping her weapon. I don't really like it, Melina added, it's better to hammer with both hands. The Echo team has already killed Noa Long and assigned Xiong to be responsible for guarding, while the remaining 2 people stripped the materials. Noticing this, Melina lowered her voice and said to Sonia. These 6 weapons are not very effective. She has some concerns. It's already very difficult to fight against the black dragon species, and it's probably even harder to fight against the blue dragon species that are not smooth in autumn. Most of the yellow dragon species can fly, let alone the strongest red dragon species. Dragons are divided into 4 colors. Red, yellow, black, and blue, but they are not classified based on skin color and scale color, but rather based on biological classification. Huanglong is a group-dwelling and feathered dragon species. The representative types are winged clawed dragon species or winged feathered dragon species. Blue dragons are aquatic dragons. Fins have evolved, of which about half retain flight ability and can fly low to catch fish. Black dragon is a terrestrial dragon species that has gradually lost its ability to fly with ecological evolution, retaining only a portion of its gliding ability. Only a few powerful black dragons maintain their ability to fly. And the final red dragon is the largest dragon, mostly a giant dragon proficient in various magical factors, and also the most dangerous species. Sonia nodded lightly. Indeed, there are such concerns. In the various crises that will arise in this world later on, the vast majority of dragons are capable of flying and have huge body sizes. Bloodthirst and blunt force teams are not suitable. Ah! Why don't you just become a knife girl? That knife girl and Ionian will never die that Sonia has been talking about are the female characters in a game called League of Legends, Aria, with multiple blades floating behind her. It can also be considered a common topic between the 2 travelers. But Melina is a bit strange. If in the future she has achieved everything, why would Sonia not know what weapon to use at her peak? Taking a step back, at least you will know what kind of armament you have an advantage in, right? Melina followed her doubts and asked out loud. And Sonia's expression instantly became somewhat melancholic, with a touch of sentimentality, as if feeling regretful. Melina saw a hint of mixed love or even more complex gaze in the other person's eyes, as if watching a living idol walk down from the stage. The senior sister whispered. No one knows what your peak is like, there is only one sentence about your story. She could have. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Losses. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Losses. Sister Sonia is a woman with many secrets. This did not make her more feminine or look like a lynx, but rather gave her a remarkable radiance. Her gaze, her smile, the confidence and courage that occasionally flickered in those slightly sinister purple eyes. She seemed to emphasize to Melina every minute and every second. I will change your tragedy. How to change something that has not yet happened? Let it not happen. Is there any value in saving a tragedy that has not happened? Melina suddenly felt a little irritable and jealous about this, and her reputation for jealousy had spread from her past life to this place. She had a twisted possessiveness. She felt unhappy about her senior sister constantly watching the future of Melina. Sonia, who was too careless, didn't notice that her younger sister was staring at her with some kind of gloomy gaze. Instead, he whistled and waved to Joan. Exciting hunting, good student, can you make a lot of money on this trip? Is it easy to call a junior sister? Melina slammed open her sunshade and placed the umbrella pole on her left shoulder. With one hand, she held it between her index finger and thumb and gently rotated it. Miss Cheong's childish face was filled with a sense of despair, and her adorable pair of ponytails, as the owner's mood declined, presented the same feeling of despair. Not much. She emphasized. I knew it. Is it because it's only 6 meters long? Melina interjected. Joan widened her eyes and then showed a gentle and lovely smile. Yeah, it's only 6 meters long, just coming of age, and not even a nest has been built. After the cute smile, there was a look of frustration. If I had known, let's just tell Kai not to fight it. It's not necessarily possible to let go, Melina recalled what she had learned. Numa dragons have a strong sense of wealth, and they consider the flowers, plants, and minerals on their territory as their own wealth. Our collection behavior should have been a great provocation for them. If it weren't for the large number of us, they would probably have rushed forward in the first place. Oh. Truly an elite class, I haven't even flipped through a page of that book that records 5,000 types of dragons. Joan looked at Melina in amazement. Melina added in her heart. It is 5,672 known dragon species, as well as the 5 major volumes of uncharted dragon species. The flowers in a greenhouse are better than those in a greenhouse. Although they may not be as vibrant as wildflowers growing on the roadside, they understand various weather conditions. Cheong, on the other hand, is the called majority of students. At the beginning, they may review the materials of Numa Dragon, but when they see more than 50 skin-changing monsters such as Sea Numa Dragon, Water Numa Dragon, and subspecies Wolf Numa Dragon, it is often unbearable. Although intelligence is indeed very important, even after reading the complete list of dragon species, it is difficult to react to situations where the challenge difficulty 2 Swamp Dragon has wolf ears behind its horns, which is a subspecies of the challenge level 5 Wolf Swamp Dragon, explain, Jr. Sonia crossed her hands on her hips, looking like an ignorant and inexperienced thug. It seems that rebirth cannot save the fact that subjects barely graduate. How can the knowledge that should be returned to the teacher not be returned just because of a mere rebirth? People, talk about borrowing and returning. 1,000 gold promises belong to Yes. Thank you, senior sister, for borrowing and returning endorsements. Melina had no choice but to explain to her half-illiterate senior. The swamp dragon is a small dragon with a standard body length of 8.4 meters and a height of 2.4 meters. Its habit is to transport stones and build a platform of about 4 meters on the grassland, and then build a nest on it. During the process, the swamp dragon will grow stronger and awaken its liking and discernment ability for various herbs. They will transport a large amount of herbs to their nests and burn them to make ashes, rolling inside. At the same time, they will also enthusiastically collect various shiny minerals. All 4-color dragons like shiny minerals. And now you know why Joan and the others are so unhappy that this swamp dragon is only 6 meters long, right? Oh, I understand. Sonia applauded. It's just that it's just coming of age and hasn't had time to set up its nest yet, so even if it hunts, it won't get any loot. After a lot of effort, the Echo team also managed to extract the remaining useful materials and used a magic factor extractor to extract the magic factors from the body of the swamp dragon. Magic factor will be consumed, using the shield hammer will consume the shield hammer magic factor, and using what kind of equipment will consume what kind of magic factor. Most people's magic factors do not regenerate, so they need to use an extractor to extract them from monsters and finally give them to alchemists for alchemy conversion. For example, Noalone produces Black Dragon, Sharp-Toothed Dragon, Medicine Sorting, and Warning are the 4 magic factors. The 4-color dragon magic factor is used to exchange magic factors for weapons, and the dragon variety is used to exchange magic factors for equipment. And drug sorting and warning are the true high-value magic factors. The latter, in large numbers, can even give people spider sensing in gunfights. The former, in large numbers, can enable people to cosplay with super chip-assisted wizards. Through 10 million weeds, the weaver selects a useful herb and comforts himself. I didn't cheat, just assisted, everyone is using it. However, judging from Joan's expression, it seems that there has been no shipment. The 6-meter-long swamp dragon did not make a good nest, nor did it accumulate the mineral wealth that other small dragons coveted and desired to steal. The valuable deep yellow scales also became ordinary. Adult swamp dragons, due to being constantly rolling in their nests, draw the power of herbs from their scales, giving these yellow scales a subtle healing power and a keen sense of smell for herbs. The swamp dragon set is one of the top 10 sets for picking herbs, but unfortunately, newly grown swamp dragons do not have nests, so scales also do not have this effect. The tail of a swamp dragon can be used as a blade, as long as metal is poured. But Lay's two-handed axe disrupted the integrity of the tail. It can be said that although the Echo team dealt with it very professionally, they suffered losses in this wave. Melina glanced at Sonia. Doubt whether this is an encounter designed by this young lady to make herself wholeheartedly help in exchange for money. Look, professional hunting groups often suffer from financial losses. Very persuasive, and then she felt ridiculous about her own ideas. Let's go. Joan, the captain of the Echo squad, issued an order, and the fact that the captain of Loli's body shape and youthful appearance clearly showed a bad mood. The magic factors they extracted were only the black dragon magic factor and the sharp-toothed dragon seed magic factor, which were only enough for Don Quixote to fully charge the shield hammer. The one that consumed the most just now was actually Joan. Seize the opportunity, strike quickly, and deftly escape. She was like Stephen Curry delving deep into a group of muscle clubs, relying on elf-like speed to shake off defenders and punish the big guy outside the 3-point line. But the harvest was not enough for her to charge. This may be why the college gives advice to every graduate explorer. Violence must be exercised with caution. It's all money. If it weren't for the lack of money, Melina couldn't see why Joan and Ray were wrong. That's not what it means. Although Sister Sonia may not be too picky, even though she claims to be super ketone, she doesn't know how to order 2 lollies at once. She's not that scumbag. Being wronged refers to encountering a Hamlet catbird on the road, which is named after the local town and is also the best local specialty of the region, with fresh and tender meat. So the grievance is to let Joan and Lay sisters catch birds. Although there may be some ambiguity, it is not enough. The real grievance was when Sister Sonia held an old and expensive brass series crossbow, which was equipped with accessories such as crossbow magazine capacity, Level 3, and rapid fire enhancement. Level 2, that novice explorers had never heard of before. She fired 15 shots in a row, leaving 14 shots empty, and 1 shot stuck next to the bird, causing it to crash into a tree in shock. Dead. Then the sisters Joan and Lay had to say hello to her. Mr. Don Quixote is more straightforward. After looking at the arrows on the ground and then at Sonia's crossbow, the last comment is: although you have only just debuted, I think you are already very old and about to retire. Where's Melina? Then he closed his eyes. Looking at it again is an insult to oneself. Then think about it. Such a bird-like person can become an explorer, why can't they do it themselves? The sky has no eyes. Sonia let out a demonic laugh. Aha, are you saying you haven't hunted anything? Melina couldn't express her respect for her senior sister's thick and solid skin, so she had to take a step forward. The long walk has worn away a lot of interest and endurance. They found a clean place to rest, replenish their water, and eat some dried meat in the short distance before the finish line. Melina's extraordinary talent was revealed. As everyone gasped for breath together, she elegantly spun her umbrella, moving forward like a little girl jumping over a puddle, neither too fast nor too slow. While everyone was already replenishing their fluids and gasping for breath, she remained the same. Beyond the limits of an ordinary witch, Melina's terrifying magical factor reserves have greatly optimized her body. To be honest, looking back now, maybe she could have killed that swamp dragon with her bare hands. It's like Wu Song fighting a tiger. You freak, Sonia muttered, then glared at Melina's thighs with incredulous eyes. Well, Joan and Ray are the same. An incredulous and research-oriented gaze. It almost makes people think it's playing hooliganism. Melina's leg shape is very attractive, not the kind of white and thin, because the exaggerated proportion on her chest gives her a slightly fleshy and slender figure. But these explorers are not paying attention to this, but studying where this elf-like jumping step comes from. Tell me, Xiaomei, Sonia asked curiously, do you still have elf lineage? I am a 100% pure witch. Melina answered. Sonia kept staring at her for a while before slowly exhaling. We're almost here, I hope there won't be a dragon looking at that mineral in my memory. Are you afraid of dragons with the Echo team present? Melina now believes more in the combat effectiveness of the Echo team. Even if she encounters a rare flying dragon among the black dragons, or a yellow dragon and a blue dragon wearing a tree on the shore, this team with many hidden things can solve it. How can they show their true strength? That depends on Sonia's financial situation. Sonia's expression was a bit gloomy. I'm afraid. Before Melina could ask, she muttered to herself. I'm afraid there might be red dragons lurking there. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Reasons for Death and Return. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Reasons for Death and Return. Most of the dragons that appear in this world follow the so-called low demon world rules, which means they have some strength, but only a little strength. Just like the small dragon, like the swamp dragon, its tail cannot even fly. Mr. Don Quixote, and it cannot make the other person's waist shout a warning. So, is there any type of dragon that possesses the attributes of a so-called super cool magical dragon? The answer is yes. It's what my senior sister calls the red dragon species. When it comes to introducing other dragon species, most of them come with some characteristics, while the introduction of the red dragon species is the shortest, which is, the red dragon species has the smallest number of dragon species, has the highest average body size among the 4 dragon species, and is also the most magical dragon species. Don Quixote, walking backwards, made an unsettling joke. If we encounter a red dragon species, we still have time to learn dragon language and say, 3 matures thank you, to it. Xiongwen spoke softly and tenderly, which made people shiver with fear. Dua Puia Kir. The meaning of this dragon language is 3 maturities, thank you. I hope you don't use it. Even if you die, you must die with dignity. Don Quixote insisted and then began practicing, Duya. Xiong Xiaojing said. It's Dua, with a lower tone at the back. Imagine a mouthful of thick phlegm stuck in my throat for 5 years. Sonia, who was running behind, hugged Melina. Melina pushed her sweaty sister in disgust, and at the same time, she stared at her eyes, which were reminiscent of expensive cats. Her whole body exuded an aura of, you'd better have something to do. Senior sister whispers for advice. Is that dragon language true? Melina glanced at Joan and Don Quixote, who were patiently teaching and learning, and the corners of her mouth curved slightly. Fake. Hiss. The senior sister carefully watched Joan, who had a serious, patient, and gentle expression on her face, and swore to heaven, I will never provoke such women. Have you ever thought of provoking trouble before? Twins, twin lowly, twin giant weapon lowly. Sonia gave 3 very convincing views. And Melina added in her heart, and she's beautiful. Xiong and Lei are a bit mixed race, resembling Mary Rose's allotrope, with blonde hair and double ponytails, which looks very suitable for grasping. I think so, Melina added. Miss Jones' ability to teach incorrect content so seriously is also a talent. Just like telling jokes but not laughing is also a talent. She appreciates this talent, and every time she tells a serious joke, she makes herself laugh first. I didn't whisper to Sonia anymore. It's definitely not because Melina dislikes the other person being soaked in the mountains and rivers, but because the formation is shrinking, from 3.2 to 1.4, with legal lowly holding heavy weapons standing beside them, like a prison guard guarding prisoners. In this situation, if you continue to whisper and talk about topics before crossing over, it is not polite enough. Melina saw Sonia smiling at Joan. In her heart, she could hear a beeping sound of alarm, and her senior sister must not do anything criminal. Side head. Melina saw Lay looking at the waves on the sea called Melina. Beep, beep, beep. Woman, what do you want? I am not LV ketone. Melina really wants to deceive herself that the other person is just looking at the scenery, but if someone shakes their head up and down while looking at the scenery, like a dog nodding, then the scenery may be a bit problematic. Fortunately, this awkward moment came to an end quickly. Xiong and Lei changed positions. There are many legal Lolita experts, with only the eyeballs moving up and down and the head not moving. This can make Melina comfort herself. It's okay, she's doing eye exercises. What a historic figure. Joan secretly gave Miss Melina a definition in her heart. She had never seen such a powerful startup speed before. Joan and her sisters have applied in many hunting groups, and have seen many, unreasonable, players, such as fierce people who use two-handed giant swords as one-handed swords and tower shields as ordinary shields. Most of the double-handed martial arts girls in their line are also unreasonable players. But she has never seen someone like Melina who starts at the fastest speed, slows down without any adjustments, and has a terrifying ability to stay in the air. The stagnation power of the blood race, the activation power of the elves, the explosive power of the orcs, and the sturdy power of the dwarves. These constitute everything for this Miss Marina. At the same time, there is also a deep-seated potential for magical factors. Xiong probably knows why Sister Sonia values her so much. In terms of her basic qualities, becoming an explorer would definitely be a super strong support. Based on limited cooperation, Joan has roughly figured out Sonia's basic abilities, which are probably not much different from waste. So how can I play if one person in the three-person team is disabled? Some people may go back to being collectors and no longer dream of explorers. But some people will come up with strategies and hug their thighs. And this thigh Xiong reluctantly looked at Melina's body again and felt a surge of magical factors inside, feeling a sense of regret in her heart. How did Sonia, this bastard, find her first? Before graduation, Joan was determined to take her sisters to the sisters' hunting group, eager to become two legs of the team with Lei. But after only working for less than 2 years, she had already recognized herself clearly. Being a jerk is not shameful, and she always shouts high goals without the ability to achieve them. This is shameful. Her gaze was too hot, as if it caught Melina's attention. Xiong launched the most effective move as a legal loli with a 100% intention to pry into the corner, a cute and charming gentle smile. This move is useful for the vast majority of people, even iron-hearted alchemists will allow her to first credit her to replenish her magic factor, and even offer discounts. But what surprised and angered Joan was that after seeing such a lovely smile, Melina's first reaction was trembling, unbelievable, and like a precious cat eating while its owner suddenly took away her plate, her eyes widened with anger and fear. Even if Xiong wanted to break her mind, she couldn't figure out why. Why is she afraid of me and why is she angry? At the end of the map provided by Sonia was a dangerous jungle downhill circle. Due to the explorer's wise motto of, better go up than down, the team's morale slightly declined as they went down. In this case, Joan and Lei's sisters directly converted to the 2.1.2 formation and personally opened the way in front. What if we encounter a hidden yellow dragon? Don Quixote was worried. He said that the yellow dragon belongs to the feathered dragon class, which is naturally lacking in virtue. It has a dragon-like body but likes to hide on tree crowns or shrubs to ambush its prey in a rabbit-like manner. The way of ambush varies from pouncing to throwing feces, and the most disgusting thing is to vomit. Joan replied calmly, I can only rely on my rich experience and my sister's excellent combat ability. Sonia leaned in curiously and said, "What if it doesn't work?" Xiong glanced at her and answered with a smile. "Then you can only rely on your own escape ability. It's not easy to fight when you're in a reduced state. Set life and death aside. But Joan is not so great." Melina knew that Joan and Ray definitely had alchemy items at the bottom of the box to survive. The formation has widened a lot. Melina and Sonia have a new private chat space as a result. This time it wasn't Sonia who started it, but Melina wanted to talk to her beloved senior sister from the bottom of her heart. "I want to talk to you from the bottom of my heart." "Oh, oh, oh." Sonia made a very frightening sound like boiling water. Attracted the three people who were exploring ahead to turn around synchronously. The facial expressions of the three were all, "What strange thing is calling," and when she saw Sonia, she turned her head calmly. "Do you need to exaggerate like this?" Melina is a bit angry. Sonia quickly drew a cross on her chest and said, "No, no, no, I didn't expect you to want to talk to me about this. You said, we only met for a day and you're willing to talk to me about all these things." Melina mastered the trick. As long as she remained silent and stared at Sonia with pursed lips, the reborn senior sister would obediently shut up. Okay, let me tell you the truth from the novel. I understand what you mean, Risby." Sonia tapped her breastplate again, her smile becoming carefree and sunny. Melina lowered her voice and said in a hoarse voice, "XX is a wolf, using werewolf slayer. I suspect that Xiong is LV ketone, and so is Lei." "Oh, oh, oh." Sonia let out a surprised sound of boiling water. Before Melina could become angry and embarrassed, the senior sister suddenly quieted down and looked at her expressionless. After a second, this serious expression was replaced by a happy smile. She spread out her hand and said, "This is not true. However, there has been progress. At the end of the week, the Echo team suffered a heavy blow, and only one person survived in all three teams." "Is it Joan?" "No, it's Ray," Sonia recalled. "It's really cruel." "Yes, it's too cruel." Melina didn't expect such a thing to happen to these three people. "Will you change this?" Sonia nodded imperceptibly and said, "I am certain that I died and returned for countless such things." She seems to have always had this mysterious confidence. But maybe it's true. Melina began to believe this. This may be fate. The Echo team, who could not have known that their future tragic fate had quietly changed, finally found the location of the mineral deposit that Sonia had mentioned after a difficult journey. That is a deep and terrifying swamp. Amidst the bubbling poisonous tan, a faint blue shimmering ray of crystal ore emerged. If you're not completely focused, you might mix it with the liquid on the surface of the poison tan. There is no origin. Melina felt a sense of disgust and a sense of warmth. "Terui crystal mine is a mineral that my senior sister talks about, which can help me fulfill my long-cherished wish." End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Healthy Fairies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Healthy Fairies. The goal is right in front of us. But the entire team, including Sonia, fell into a eerie silence, and the air was filled with an unsettling atmosphere. Is something wrong? Melina vaguely remembered that her mentors seemed to have mentioned this situation, but upon closer reflection, it was like seeing a variant of a math problem she had seen before. She knew how to do it, but couldn't recall it. She is now caught in an awkward transition between theoretical knowledge and practical experience. But when everyone remained silent, she kept quiet and pressed against her senior sister. This kind of 1, 2, and 3 wooden man game surprisingly persisted. Reminds Melina of her past life when she stood in military training. Standing like a pine tree, keep a eerie silence like this. After about 5 or 6 minutes, with a loud crash, the surrounding jungle moved. The air is fading, and pieces of paint-like material are falling off, scattering back into a special conceptual factor from the visible physical blocks of magic. Hidden next to them was a massive creature. It undoubtedly has a body length of nearly 40 meters and a height of nearly 10 meters. The powerful magical factor constantly emanates in a wave-like manner from its red scales, accompanied by a slight smell of mutton and grass. An adult red dragon. The skull with a short snout and dragon snout structure that gives a rough and robust impression is reminiscent of a boxer. Dragon horns are a pair of skyrocketing and upward-facing dragon horns that are standard for flying dragons. This is a winged clawed dragon, with its wings folded together to serve as limbs for walking on the ground. And the most eye-catching feature of this dragon is its heavy tail end with a terrifying six-sided hammer bone blade and the magnificent fiery red feather like dragon scales covering its wings. A fiery red curved bone blade grows on its joints, and the main structure of its body is wrapped in a red patchwork shell. Almost immediately, it made Melina's feet a bit soft. This is much bigger than a swamp dragon or something. This is a powerful flying dragon of the red dragon species. Fortunately, the static vision of the flying dragon is infinitely close to that of a blind person, and this dragon's sense of smell is not sensitive enough. As can be seen from its mutton smell, this guy's staple food is sheep, and he even grills it before eating. Which sentence came in handy now? What sentence is "do a pu'ia here"? I don't know if Mr. Don Quixote took Jones' teaching seriously and used this sentence as a dragon language. But overall this kind of dragon has his mother mimesis, so big a dragon has a mimesis. This is really unreasonable. Melina's classical theoretical foundation has played a role, and the swamp in front of her has been regarded as her wealth by this flying dragon, so this shiny blue Tower Roy crystal mine has not been coveted by other dragons. The greed of dragons for shiny minerals is inexplicable to humans, and the vast majority of flying dragons are hunted because they are unwilling to leave their wealth, making them a part of it. Hunting a flying dragon requires a team of over 30 people, totaling 10 small teams, to collaborate sincerely, confirm ecology, nest, behavior patterns and habits, customize traps, alchemy props, consumables, and buy calves. This world custom is to have a whole set of ritual activities similar to gods and ghosts before the start of large-scale hunting, giving the members of the hunting team a roasted calf. Success means the calf is strong enough. If it's not successful, most of the time I won't be able to come back. After all, I had a good meal, right? But now his mother sisters don't have any calves to eat. Can you let the dragon adjust well and wait for my sisters to come back? Melina belongs to the category of monsters where the greater the pressure, the more active her nerves become. As I watched the red dragon prepare to close my eyes and continue to sleep soundly, I had some thoughts in my heart. It's definitely a disadvantage for them to stand here and play with this dragon like this, because if they stand for a long time, someone might become numb. If they move, they might trigger an attack from this red dragon. We must lead this dragon out. After careful consideration, Melina felt that she had to handle this matter herself. Firstly, she is small and agile enough. Lei and Joan are not good, and these two lowlies' physical fitness is far inferior to herself. Secondly, she has a lot of magic factors. Having more magic factors actually gives her excellent elemental defense, and being spit out by the dragon breath may not necessarily cause an accident. In the end, she had the least equipment and was not at a loss for money when given away. Jokingly, she had less equipment and was easier to run, and also more skilled in attracting dragons. Don't be fooled by the size of these dragons, they are actually more prone to bullying the weak and being afraid of the hard. After considering 3 aspects, Melina began to ponder the ultimate question. Is it necessary? Now they seem to be trapped in a classroom that is about to end school, and the teacher says, "Don't leave until you solve this problem." At this point, a hero needs to step up and solve the problem while taking on the teacher's irresponsible anger. Can she do it? I will. Melina thought. She doesn't have a preference for becoming a hero. What she enjoys is the pleasure of running against danger, a true sense of freedom to feel alive, and it's really interesting to see the ugly face of the old Zhazhong who doesn't abide by professional ethics and procrastinates casually. So, she turned her head to look at Sonia in the blind spot of Red Dragon's vision. At this moment, she believed that Sonia understood what she was going to do. "I'm super, don't." Before Sonia could say this, Melina had already started. A fierce jump without turning back rushed out of the best starting distance for humans, like an elf starting from a tree, and like a blood race moving forward, pulling magic factors to form an unobservable force field. The wall heavily fanned the red dragon's face. The sound was like slapping a fan. Simultaneously, there was also a roar that shattered the eardrum and a loud sound of ejection. As one of the world's top hunters, Red Dragon naturally develops a sufficiently large abnormal self-esteem. They are like kings of a region, and now anyone dares to slap the respected face of the king. So the next step is the anger of the king. The massive red dragons possess terrifying agility beyond human imagination. They appear to be blind and unable to recognize static objects. True dragons are blind, but their ability to capture dynamic objects has reached a subtle level. And their innate agility allowed them to catch up with Melina in an instant with their rear hair, and the short dragon kiss opened, revealing their brutal biting power in an instant. This terrifying explosive force erupted at the same time as the situation where Melina was about to die under the dragon kiss. Sonia almost screamed, but saw Melina gracefully dodge the dragon kiss from behind, appearing as agile as a fairy in mid-air, with a provocative smile and fists crossed. The heavy magic factor that could no longer condense the force field wall once again struck the tip of the red dragon's nose. For dragons with short dragon kisses, the nose is a sensitive spot. After being attacked, it becomes even more violent. This is also reasonable. If the king is slapped and finds that the other person's idea is a bit hard, he can still say, "I'll endure you once, I'm generous." But when the second slap comes, Jesus won't have such a good temper as this king. "You're so tender." The red dragon erupted into a thunderous rage, accelerating once again. And Melina unleashed the essence of her love for running, the unbeaten three-crowned horse girl. She accelerated again on the flat ground, dodged the dragon's attack, and in one breath led the dragon towards the distance. This fairy-like girl enjoyed danger and was surrounded by the dragon as the focus, which was her already transformed nature. Melina stepped forward and led the dragon away. Sonia stared blankly at the raging dust and tree fragments along the way, only to react and scream. "Hurry up, dig the mine." Then he took out the noise arrow and the flash arrow from his pocket and assembled them onto the brass crossbow. She didn't pretend to ask the members of the Echo team to help Xiaomei immediately, but instead urged them to quickly do what they needed to do. At the same time, she had no reason to believe that by firing crossbows and arrows into the sky after they had dealt with it, Melina could receive a message and eventually meet up near Hamlet town. There is no tacit understanding, but rather some kind of understanding. She knew she would do that. "Is she crazy?" Lei asked in shock. "Lei." Joan interrupted Lei's words loudly, glaring sternly at her. "Work." Joan glanced at Sonia and said, "Sorry, my sister was a bit stimulated today." If a person is willing to give and sacrifice, then you can never say that they are crazy. "This is a great choice," Joan said seriously. Don Quixote had already trotted to the swamp, took out the mining props that had already been prepared, and loudly called out, "Lei, come and give me a hand." The members of the Echo team quickly demonstrated their professional skills and in just a few seconds cleared the defensive magic factor covering the swamp, and began to solve the dragon poison problem. But Sonia could only stare on the side. She was not an expert, and not every reborn person could solve math problems they wouldn't know after being reborn. These specialized things are similar to mathematics, and even if they cannot be done 100 times, they cannot be done. She naturally thought of Melina. The girl who almost dances in the air like a fairy. At the end of the week, there are 3 top monsters in the world, namely Chuanli Ai, Alice, Peak Tower, Tasia, and Healthy May, Melina. Legend has it that when these 3 monsters appear, everything will come to an end, just like the Dark Belt Mage gathered in Game King and the Angel Cult in Shark's Ratio. But among these 3 people, only Melina is truly one of the top 5 world explorers, and only her condition has the most room for imagination. In a week, when she met Melina, her physical condition was already extremely poor. On average, she needed powerful magic similar to a wish every month to alleviate the eternal pain on her body. At the same time, she couldn't run at all and was considered an explorer who, although using light weapons, was a representative figure of heavy weapons. Only occasionally exhibiting a terrifying explosive power, she was able to instantly follow the footsteps of agile dragons like Yingxinlong, who stood out in the world. It makes people imagine how terrifying a completely healthy Melina would be. Now Sonia has seen a little shadow. I am not an explorer, but I easily played with the speed-oriented red feather dragon in the Red Dragon. Such a genius may not be found even after searching through the king's capital. Thinking of this, Sonia felt a bit toothache. Rebirth cheats allow her to easily take the lead and bring over her future crossbow fighting skills, which can reach a challenge level of 10. However, her talent has not improved a bit, and she can only hit fixed targets like Pony in Hong Kong police and bandit films, with a focus on accuracy and bullet count. Don't say for sure, just say whether it's fast or not, more or less. Her memories were interrupted by the Echo team. The professional team has used the fastest speed to excavate those blue and glowing crystals, and strictly followed Sonia's pre-agreed method of treating the heat-radiating stones in a separate small box. The entire contact was handled with hands wearing gloves and armor. Seeing this, Sonia fired 2 consecutive crossbows and arrows into the sky. 1 noise-interfering arrow, 1 flashing explosive arrow. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Third Party. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Third Party. Bang. A loud noise interrupted the communication between Melina and the Red Dragon, and each person and dragon quickly looked towards the scene. Melina immediately closed her eyes when she noticed the sound coming from a higher point. Roar. Bang. Then there was the dragon roar of pain and the sound of heavy objects falling to the ground. Powerful flash bomb. Even on this pleasant and sunny afternoon day, it is enough to burst into a blinding light in one breath. Well done, A1 is flashing high. Melina touched the sweat on her face and said happily. This life and death struggle gave her a feeling of being alive. This emotion even made her a bit reluctant to leave, but then she realized clearly that she was unarmed and it was impossible to kill this red dragon in hand combat. Some people said that the female demon must be armed to be considered a complete female demon, and Melina felt this deeply. Without weapons, she was like a wizard without magic. It was so serious, not even a wand, it was just magic. She turned her head and looked affectionately at the struggling red dragon on the ground. After I receive the weapons, I will come back and kill you. This pure killing intent was perceived by the red dragon, and the angry dragon seemed to have locked onto Melina's direction and opened a dragon kiss towards her. In the ferocious dragon kiss with bulging teeth, a chilling heat rose. Bang! A wall of flames suddenly formed in the air, and the high temperature evaporated the moisture in the air, making Melina feel her face heating up and her skin tightening. The flames exhaled and bombarded her not far away, causing her to chuckle softly. I will come back to find you. Bang! It was another breath, but this time Melina broke away from the attack distance early and crawled into the complex jungle, relying on her memory to run towards Hamlet town. I felt waves of dryness and coolness while running. She reached out and touched the back of her black dress before realizing it. Sweating did not come out. Looking at her clean little hands, Melina frowned. Am I having a problem? After digging a large amount of crystal ore, the Echo team and Sonia rushed to Hamlet town, hoping to return before the evening arrived. Although the hotel there is not very good, the Echo team still hopes to have hot food and soup, and then go to the pub at night to have a look at Play Naughty. The rich productivity of this world has led to the booming business of the taverns that explorers often visit, which are 6 or 7 levels higher than hotels. But Sonia just wants to go home and see if she has the chance to invite Xiaomei to take a bath with today's sisters to personally verify whether, the largest of the top 5 female demons, is true. On the way back, the attitude of the Echo team improved a bit. Anybody can see that Xiaomei has a promising future, but I don't know why she has a good relationship with the junkie dim sum sister. It is estimated that she will join the sisters' team in the future. But besides complaining about the lack of eyes in the sky, we also need to wag the dog's tail more warmly, so that in the future, there is a chance of success when renting out the big dad in the senior sister team. Due to being away from the dangerous area patrolled by the flying dragon, the journey has also become much easier. Everyone was also startled by the sudden appearance of the red-feathered dragon before, so they stopped collecting things and just wanted to quickly return to Hamlet town, avoiding all the dragons they encountered along the way. Xiong and Lei, 2 petite girls, walked with backpacks in front of each other. This is what Sonia specifically requested. Terui crystal mine has very disgusting characteristics. If the skin unfortunately touches it, it will feel the pain of high temperature burns within 1 minute, and then it will start to seriously infect internal organs of the body, leading to its failure. Even explorers who are full of magical factors are extremely dangerous, constantly eroding their magical factors and constructing a complete absorption loop, making the explorers weak and even deadly. But this feature is also suitable for making control cores. Xiaomei needs to control the core to control the armament. The relationship between Xiaomei and the core is somewhat like Bluetooth. The first connection requires some effort, and then it becomes convenient and cool. At the same time, this pile of Terui crystal mines should be the easiest to obtain Terui crystal mines near Hamlet town. After taking them away, the movable estate can also be arranged. Sonia is in a great mood. It was even more indescribable pleasure to see Melina standing on the street in a morning black dress with a sunshade umbrella on the edge of the road, which was only 5 minutes away from Hamlet town for a jog. She was even thinking to herself, can I be considered the first female demon to experience the healthy state of her abilities? Returning to the Collectors Guild, sign the commission form, and at the same time, the impatient anti-style receptionist of the guild harshly reminds the beautiful Sonia, senior sister. Ask that team to submit the commission log tomorrow, come and confirm it, and just sign it. After completing the mission, explorers in this world have to write something similar to a transcript. But there is also a ghostwriter available for such a troublesome matter. Melina turned her head and saw 2 legitimate lollies from the Echo squad struggling to squeeze in front of a counter, tiptoeing and speaking loudly to a round cat ball above the counter. This type of cat bun has a winding back, round and fluffy, but understands human language and undertakes a lot of paperwork, including writing delegation logs. You only need 1 silver lei, purchasing power of 10 yuan, to hire this round and furry animal. Listen to your dictation and write the commission log, ensuring the format is correct. If you add 1 silver lei, you can also reach out and rub this warm furry creature while they are writing. Joan gave a silver lei at the counter. Melina tilted to the beginning and let out a click, exclaiming that she was truly a woman who couldn't understand her charm. With such a good-tempered creature, it was still such a large cat ball that didn't rub and wasted a lot of money. Sonia is still entangled with her aunt. If I want to apply for an explorer's license for my companion, what are the procedures? Counter Auntie's evil voice. It's closing today, come and ask tomorrow. Could you please make it convenient, Miss Marlowe? Sonia smiled charmingly, can you please accommodate me? Malu didn't buy it at all. Anything you say is useless. Does it look like Maru really hates Sonia? While Melina was watching the play, Sonia suddenly grabbed her hand and pulled her to the counter. She smiled pleasantly and said, it's for her to handle. Do you think you should log in the procedures first? Tomorrow is the day off, isn't the day off only for accepting commission tasks? Aunt Marlowe looked like she was about to curse again, but when her gaze fixed on Melina's face, she paused and her gaze became straight. Melina tilted her head slightly for no apparent reason. Aunt Malu surprisingly showed a hint of nervousness on her face. Sonia leaned in Melina's ear and whispered, "Smile." Melina followed suit with a formulaic smile. Aunt Malu immediately showed a shy expression and a blush on her face. "It's not impossible either." Outside the Collectors Guild. Holding the Registered Explorer Handbook in her hand, Melina touched the candy, cookies, packaged pastries, and 5 more record books and a small gift of a packaged signature pen that she had given her in her pocket, fearing she might not need them enough. Sonia held the crossbow in both hands, feeling happy and said, "I've done it, I've finally done it. Hey, we've succeeded in stealing the chicken." Melina looked at her sideways and said, "Stealing a chicken? Sonia walked towards the estate first and said as she walked, "The certification for explorers is quite strict, requiring applicants to have weapons. At the same time, instructors will also be sent to guide new explorers. This creates a problem, you cannot use an arm normally." She slowly recounted a passage of history. "In the next year, there will be monsters like you appearing, and the Explorer Guild will change the registration rules for using one armed weapon. And that is based on the rule that had to be adopted after 2 horrific dragon rampages. If there were no major events now, the members of the guild would not agree to use magic factors to control 5 armed individuals at the same time. Becoming an explorer, to be honest, I can also understand them." Melina can also understand. This is not simply about using 5 more weapons. From a magical perspective, there are people in this world who are naturally adaptable to dual armaments, but their fate is often tragic. Because the magic factor cannot fill 2 weapons. And even if it is full, rejection may occur on an unknown day, leading to death. It can be said that the members of the guild set this registration rule in order to prevent tragedy. Melina asked. "So are you cooking mature rice with raw rice?" Oh. The senior sister made a boiling water sound. "You're so bold, Xiaomei." Realizing ambiguity in her words, Melina stared at Sonia with her beautiful golden pupils. The senior nodded and said, "It can be said that if you register today, you will ignore the rest day to register tomorrow, but today's procedures have been completed, which means you are now an explorer. Tomorrow you are only registering your own information, and the day after tomorrow is a rest day. After you register, these 2 days are the default message processing time, which means that your registration will be sent to the headquarters for approval." Melina knows the principle now. "And since no one has been working these past 2 days, I will default to registering and entering the database. If I want to retrieve, change or dismiss my explorer status, I must go through the official process, right?" "Yeah, Xiaomei." Sonia smiled happily, "but this move can only be used once. From ancient times to the present, you are the first person to get stuck with this bug." "It's really an honor," Melina replied. "Hey, although illegal explorers are also possible, the way I look at you, I've always wanted to be a legal explorer, haven't I? You respect me, I respect you, Rizbi, Xiaomei." She extended her left fist. Melina looked at her fist for half a second and then extended her right fist to touch the opponent. Returning to the estate, there was already someone in the living room. A woman who immediately reminds people of dazzling sunshine, with long golden hair shining and magnificent, and bright silver pupils with charming luster. She is a tall and beautiful woman like a complete knight. She gave Melina a sunny and cheerful smile, like some kind of large dog, and then greeted Sonia. "Good evening, So-So, is this May now?" Sonia, who was called So-So, nodded and introduced Melina. "She is our last roommate, Maria, but I usually call her Old Ma. She paused for a moment. "And then, she's also a cheater. Have you heard of system cheats?" End of this chapter.